right, so you remember how in a couple of units when it came to the Transcontinental Railroad and the Bessemer process that we've come up with or used faster, efficient, cheaper, all of these things? You're definitely going to see that play out here when it comes to mass producing these particular products. And in general, the guy who's really going to get into mass producing products is going to be Henry Ford. But it's not going to be this car, because I think people try to credit him with
inventing the car,
but he didn't.
Didn't.
He made it easier to make. He made it cheaper. All of these things.
Same way Jeff Bezos didn't invent the internet.
Right.
He just used it to his advantage.
Exactly. So, like, here's just some of your early models of cars that people tried.
The horseless carriage, it was known as.
Right. And this is probably like the 1840s. And again, you know, when you're looking at cars, they're definitely borrowing ideas from the carriage, the horse carriage, because that's what they were using transportation for. And then it became a little bit more evolved. I think they were operating this on steam, but
yeah. And you even noticing here,
yep,
is like the type of people who would have been owning cars early on.
Right.
You know, she's wearing a fur coat, beautiful hat. He's got a three-piece suit on. You know,
right.
You're talking about wealthy individuals are the only people who were able to afford. Hey, look what I did there.
Afford.
Who could afford an automobile?
Because the thing is that even going to this, I mean, something, it may look very simple to put together, but probably during this time period, you're talking about a lot of man hours to put this together, and probably the same with that.
Absolutely.
So if you're talking about a lot of man hours to put something together, what's that going to do to the price? It's going to bring it up, right? So when we get to then Ford, his Model T, which, by the way, you could have in any color you want, as long as it was black, as he said. But, you know, your earlier cars, I mean, you could still almost see the remnants, I guess, of a wagon wheel.
Yep.
You know, we're starting to evolve. You know, the tires, of course, today are extravagant with the spinners and all that other nonsense that you put on there. But Henry Ford, he said, failure is simply the opportunity to begin again, this time more intelligently.
Similar to Edison's quote
Yep.
about inventing the light bulb.
Right. Edison and Ford, when they were first trying to like get their ideas to work, they dealt with a lot of failure.
Trial and error. Yep.
A lot of doors slammed in their face. A lot of no, this won't work. But when it came to Ford, you know, he says, you know, if I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. So what winds up coming out of this that he's able to do is the assembly line when it comes to making cars. Now, there's a lot of great comedy that also comes out of that, because when we're looking at the assembly line, parts are going to move along on a conveyor belt, and you're going to be doing the same job all the time.
Very repetitive.
Putting a tire on.
Yeah.
Tire comes down line, you know, it comes up. I thought a picture, yep.
Yeah, if we go back for a second.
Yep.
With the assembly line, you almost have to go back to 7th grade, Solstice, and interchangeable parts.
Yes.
Eli Whitney's order he gets from the U.S. Army about a certain number, like he needs 10,000 muskets.
Mm-hmm.
So he invents basically interchangeable parts, a part that will fit in any particular machine. And when I taught this, it was like Home Depot is the home of interchangeable parts.
Oh, absolutely.
Something breaks in my house, I walk in, I go, yeah, I need one of these doohickeys.
And they have it.
And they're like, yeah, aisle 9, third shelf, and it's like,
Yeah.
you find the right one, you go home, you fix whatever's broken. Well, if it wasn't for interchangeable parts, the
Right.
assembly line never would have, it's almost like interchangeable parts are like the grandfather of the assembly line. You know, because as we said, like you're standing in one spot, my job might be putting the tire on, put the tire on. It goes down the conveyor belt, Mr. He's job might be to literally bolt the tire into place.
And we'll probably put that vocabulary word for interchangeable parts right here, right over there.
That'd be cool.
All right, so when it comes
I'm
to
not a Yankee fan.
So when it comes to the assembly line as well, here's the other thing. When we're looking at the pros and cons, I guess. That's pros, what's this going to do to the price then of the car?
Well, you're going to be able to, since you're mass producing, you're producing many in a short period of time, the price of the car is going to drop dramatically. And to me, one of the major cons is the workers themselves. It's like, how boring can your job be?
Yes.
10 hours a day.
Yes.
The same job over and over and over.
But here's the thing with the workers, though, when you're talking about the workers, you really don't need to train somebody on how to do the same task over and over again. Now, while we're talking about workers as well, you know, workers' rights in the workplace safety, still not, you know, they still don't have really laws that regulate
do what I
that.
tell you is basically
Pretty much
the
it.
workers'
No
job.
8-hour days, no 40-hour
Yeah.
work weeks, you know, no workplace safety, no designing things. There's something that I came across when you're designing certain things to make sure that they're ergonomically correct, where, when you're doing the same task, yeah.
It's a big word. I
Yeah.
don't know what it means.
Yeah, it's spelled ergonomically. So when it comes to designing things that are ergonomically correct, yeah, doing the same task over and over again actually does lead to certain injuries. Even, for example, moving a computer mouse, carpal tunnel, typing, whatever. We're years away from even dealing with that.
And
kind
I
of
go
stuff
into
right
my students because what happens when you do the same task over and over again, you almost become complacent.
Yeah.
You think you can do it with your eyes closed, and
Right.
that's when a mistake happens. When you're not focusing.
And
exactly
these jobs
on
are
what you're supposed to be
very, very mindless as well.
Yeah.
However, he's able to pay them, and then we go back to, your people who were driving these cars initially. The only people who were really able to afford these were
Wealthy
people
Americans.
that were elite that had money. He wanted his workers to be able to afford to be able to buy his actual vehicles. Let me see, are we missing anything with
I mean,
that?
if you go to
cons?
that.
Yeah.
Nope. Two more.
Yeah.
This one. I mean, you could say.
Oh yeah.
Before mass production, before the assembly line comes around, you can maybe produce 2 or 3 cars a day in a factory. Now he's literally pumping out 100, 200 cars in a single day, which then does lower the price of the
Absolutely.
car overall, but raises his profits overall.
Absolutely.
And that's what enables him to pay his workers a little bit better than other factory workers did.
Now they still actually mass produce cars, have an assembly line. A lot of
more automated
industries,
now.
yeah, a lot of industries have adopted that whole mass producing things. A lot of things that in our society are mass produced, probably like even the processed food or whatever the case
yeah.
may be, or machines, weapons in war, which we'll get into later on in the school year. And again, just to give you an idea of the price, I mean, $650 for a Ford. I mean, you could probably get tires today for your car.
I just put 4 tires on my car, $1,000.
Whew. Yeah. So
Now again, $650 back then is still, it's probably $10,000 today, but still $10,000 for a car is extremely
you know
cheap.
what I'll do? I'll do the search for that, and we'll do the comparison, and we'll put that
exactly
right there
what
with 650
19 to
today.
20 would be today, yeah.
But again, when it comes to advertising as well, these become much more affordable. Buy it because it's a better car, Model T. Again, this advertising is also going to drive home how affordable this is. Again, you have different target audiences. Now they're going to actually go out. The target audience initially was men, but now it's going to change because he realized you can increase profits if your target audience becomes women, families. So you start to see that advertising change. So, for example, this one, you're a young businessman compared to this one, the companion of her holidays. Certain things we're starting to see here. So, assembly line, workers are staying in one place, products come along, moving belt, they're doing the same task over and over again.
And there's those words: quickly, cheaply,
Cheap.
faster, cheaper,
Efficient.
more efficient, easier to produce.
Just like everything in our society today.
Yep.
You don't have to go to the bank anymore. You go to the ATM machine. You do it yourself. It's faster. It's easier. A little cheaper. You have to pay a tax.
Forget that. I mean, I get a check. It's like I just take a picture on my phone,
Everything.
and it gets deposited into my
And
account.
it's interesting because this whole mindset, you want it now, you want it quick, instant gratification, starts here, and it just, you move forward. Everything's becoming faster and much more easier and efficient. Anything we're leaving out with
Nope.
this?
Faster.
A lot of great comedy.
Easier.
I mean, I love watching this in class. When you're talking about a mindless job, doing the same task over and over again, definitely check out the I Love Lucy chocolate. What is it called? Lucy and Ethel wrapped chocolates.
And then they should know this because like Jake and Josh or
Yes,
Josh and
that's
Drake
those-
or
okay.
whatever show
did
is
the
on
same
Team
thing.
Nick does like a similar thing, but it's with sushi
Right.
instead of chocolate.
Modern Times, Charlie Chaplin does something similar,
Yeah.
which it does make for good comedy because it is a very, very mindless job.
Yep.
All right, cool. Anything else?
No. See you soon.
Cool. Thanks
good.
for watching.